Hello and welcome to Phuket PALS. Today we're going to do another GED Social Studies exam, examining all the questions so you can have more experience to sit down in that chair and be ready for the questions to come. Let's get started. As always, go ahead and pause the video whenever we play a text, graphic, or table, chart, or map so that you can look at all the information without making this video overly long. So our first table here is about the Bill of Rights. Go ahead and pause it and look through. Question 1 about the Bill of Rights asks, the chart above lists the first 10 amendments to the United States Constitution. The First Amendment includes which? A. The rights of the accused. B. The 5 freedoms. C. The preamble. Or D. The Bill of Rights. Remember those answers and have a look at the chart again. If you had a chance to look at the chart, you may be able to count and guess which one was correct. You may not even know what some of these terms mean, but we can infer based on the meaning and the rights given in each of the amendments. So A, the rights of the accused. The first amendments do not include the rights of the accused. As we can see here, the rights of the accused would be protection against unreasonable search and seizure, starting at 4, all the way down to the 8th Amendment. Those rights are against helping people who are accused of crimes. The 5 freedoms. B. If we look at the First Amendment, we have the freedom of religion, speech, assembly, press, and the right to petition the government. Those are clearly 5 freedoms. That seems like the likely answer, but let's look at C and D anyway. C, the preamble. If you've done any of the studies for civics or history, you know that the preamble is not within the 10 amendments in the Bill of Rights. And D, the Bill of Rights. Yes, it is the Bill of Rights, but the whole thing is the Bill of Rights, so this doesn't make sense either. The best answer is B, the 5 freedoms. Number 2 states, amendments 4 to 8 are referred to as, we have the same options for answers. If you look at the amendments 4 to 8, you can see that they protect against unreasonable search and seizures, the right not to be deprived of our 3 fundamental freedoms without the process of law, the right to a speedy and public trial, and the right to a trial by jury. And the final one protects us from excessive bail or cruel and unusual punishment. Those would be the rights of the accused. A. In the Third Amendment, the word quartering means which of the following? You can pause and give it some thought. Again, if you've been doing the U.S. history studying, this should be easy for you. The answer is C, housing. If you're not familiar with this term, go back and look at your pre-Revolutionary War history because the Quartering Act was a major cause of discontent for the U.S. colonists. Okay, here we have a line graph that's showing us the 2013 value of having $50 in selected prior years. What that means is 2013 value of $50 and how much it would have been worth in years prior. You can see the farther it goes back, the more it is worth. So, 2013 value of $50 would have the purchasing power of $400 in 1960. Question 4 asks, according to the graph above, which decade experienced the fastest rate of inflation? Inflation in the graph would be indicated by the value of that amount of money dropping. Go ahead and look at the graph, pause the video, and see which decade makes the most sense for you. Okay. The answer is B, the 1970s. We can see that between 1970 and 1980, the value of $50 would have halved. That is a lot of inflation. All right. Go ahead and look at this. Look at the title. Look at the X and Y axis. Look at the years indicated on the right side. Try to remember the information. Go ahead and pause the video. We're going to move on to the questions. Here we have some more drop and drag menu questions. The first one says, according to this graph, blank had almost as many slaves in 1850 as it did in 1860. This is a pretty easy question for using a graph. If we look, which state had roughly the same amount in both light gray and dark gray? That would be Virginia. Number 6, according to the graph, blank had the greatest increase in the number of slaves in 1860. So we're going to look at the graph and we're looking for the greatest increase from 1850 to 1860. 1850 is indicated with a light gray bar, 1850 is indicated with a dark gray bar, 1860 being a light gray bar. In which state would the light gray bar be much longer than the dark gray? Mississippi. The correct answer is Mississippi. Number 7 is a little bit more of a complicated line graph. We have a title telling us that it's showing the decrease in housing market due to unemployment. The left-hand side axis is showing us from 0 to 40%. The bottom is showing us two things, the years, and then beneath that there's a key telling us which type of line indicates what. Go ahead and look at this complicated chart, pause it, and read all of the answers to yourself to try to determine which one of these is supported by the graph. Okay, I think you've had enough time to go through it. The correct answer is D. Foreclosures increased steadily throughout the period between 2008 and 2011 with little or no correlation to the unemployment rate. To get this, we really have to understand the term correlation. If we look at the dark bold line indicating unemployment and the dashed line indicating foreclosures, we can see that between 2008 and 2009, as the employment rate lowers or drops, there definitely is an increase in foreclosures. But then from 2009 to 2011, the employment rate slightly rises and the rate of foreclosures rises significantly. So there is actually no correlation between these different factors. 8. Here we have a map, 1861, the Civil War era. If you've been doing your history studies, you should be able to understand what's happening here. Question 8 asks, according to the map, April 15th, 1861 was significant. What conclusion can be made about this date? So if we look in the key, which shows us the different shades of gray, the top two are states that seceded before 1861, April 15th, 1861, and then which seceded after April 15, 1861. What can we notice about those states? Would we conclude that A, the United States had a new president? B, the line drawn at the Missouri Compromise in 1850 did not apply to California? C, the territories did not have slavery? Or D, the southern states had seceded from the Union? Go ahead, pause the video, have a look, decide which one of those conclusions you think is accurate. Okay, let's talk about which one is accurate and why. So the correct answer for this is D. As we can see, all of those two colored gray states are in the southern portion of the United States then. Although it seems we could draw the line that California was not affected by the Missouri Compromise line. It doesn't offer a complete explanation. The territories did not have slavery. C does not make any sense because it's clearly showing that there are states that permitted slavery even after 1861, the Union States in the white section in the center. And A, the United States had a new president. That is not indicated anywhere on this map. All right, so here we have a letter written by Chief of the Choctaw Tribe, Mr. George W. Harkins, and he's writing this in 1832. Go ahead and have a look at it. I hope you've been studying your U.S. history. This is an important time in the U.S. history, rather dark time. Pause the video, read the text, and we'll move on to the questions. Okay, number 9. In his letter, George W. Harkins is referring to which of the following? Again, this is a factual knowledge-based question, but you can use the process of elimination. If you had studied the U.S. history portion in the 1800s, then you will find a lot about Indian removal. If we look through the questions, A through D, Indian Removal Act, that's about Indian tribes, could be right. B, the Civil Rights Movement, if you've been studying the U.S. history, you know that's about a century later. C, American Indian Movement, seems possibly right. D, People's Protest at the University of California at Berkeley, I don't even know. I doubt this university was even founded by this date, 1832. So we're left with A and C. If you've done the historical study, you can get your 50-50 chance right. Indian Removal Act was way before the American Indian Movement, which is a protest movement in the 1960s. Number 10. Which conclusion can you draw from the information in the Harkins letter? So this is asking you to draw a conclusion based on the text. This is a vital skill. Just keep practicing if it's challenging for you. Go ahead and pause and read the answers and choose which one you think is best. The answer is C. Sorry, not C. B. The Choctaw tribe was being forced to leave their lands. In the letter, you'll notice that Harkins states, these people were said to go voluntarily, but it is false. A is the opposite of the answer, and options C and D are not even mentioned in the letter. Okay, here we have a geography type question asking us to look at the data on a map and draw a conclusion. Number 11 asks, based on the map, which of the following is the most likely conclusion one could draw? Go ahead and pause the video, look at all of the different deserts, look at the lines indicating the Tropic of Cancer equator and the Tropic of Capricorn, and where each desert is. Okay, I hope you had a chance to go over the map. A says, most desertification occurred near the equator. If we look at the map, this just isn't true. Most desertification is north of the equator and even north of the Tropic of Cancer, in fact. B, a large area of desert can be found in northern Africa. If we look at northern Africa, deserts 5, 6 are spanning across the entire continent. That seems pretty true. C, there's a large desert in South America. South America would be the continent with the smallest deserts. That does not make sense. D, there is no desert in Australia. This is patently false. Australia is almost entirely desert. So the correct answer is B. Okay, here we go. We've got a text and a table talking about the division of powers in the federal system of the United States government. Make sure you're studying those civics well, because there are a lot of questions about civics on the GED Social Studies exam. Pause the video, look through, and let's talk about the answers. Okay, that was a lot of information. I hope you read it carefully. Number 12 asks us, which of the following are shared powers of the federal and state governments? A, make it possible for an immigrant to become a citizen of the United States. B, provide the legal basis and charter for a new bank in the state of Wyoming. C. Establish a school system in Shelby County, Tennessee. Or D. Admit Puerto Rico as a new state. The correct answer, have a look, give it some thought. Pause the video if you need. The correct answer is B. A and D are solely powers of the federal government. Immigration and admitting new states would be a federal task, and C is a local task. It would have nothing to do with the federal government. School systems are under the state and local level control. 13. In the introduction to this chart, the word concurrent most likely means which of the following. This you have to use context. You can probably guess the meaning of concurrent if you look in the chart, in the table. The last sentence of the paragraph above the table says, powers that exist at both levels are called concurrent powers. Since we're being told it's both levels, that's a big hint. So does it mean A, next to one another? B, shared on both federal and state level? Shared by both federal and state. C, occurring in two geographic places at the same time? Or D, near but not next to one another? Give it some thought. The correct answer is B. It tells us shared by both. Even the answer says shared by both. This is pretty easy if you go back and find the term concurrent. Here we have trends in urban population. A big chart giving us projected past, current, and projected populations by cities. Have a look. Notice who's at the top, who's at the bottom. Pause the video, analyze it, read the question, look at the answers, and see what you think. Question 14 says, based on the information in the chart above, blah 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 will be the most populous city in the world in 2025. If we just look at the top right corner, it tells us 2025. Since it's organized by population, number one, and they even give us the number in millions on the right side, we can see that Tokyo, Japan, Tokyo will be the most populous city in the world in 2025. These are some pretty easy questions. I hope you get lucky and get a lot of these on your test. Here you go, another easy one. So look at the pie graph. Notice which area refugees came from. The top of the graph says the title, Refugees in the United States in 2010. So we're going to be looking at where these refugees came from. 15 asks, according to the graph, what conclusion can be made about refugees in the United States in 2010? Our answers are A, more than half the refugees in the United States were from Asia. B, Latin America and the Caribbean were a great source of refugees in 2010. C, refugees come to the United States from Europe. B, Iran and Iraq had a large number of refugees. Let's just start with D and work our way up and see if they're true or not. D, Iran and Iraq have a large number of refugees. Iraq is not even 20%. Iran is 3%. Together they make up 20%. That is not a large amount, though I would say that large is a subjective term and not a very clear one for an answer on a test. It doesn't seem likely. C, refugees come to the United States from Europe. This cannot be true because although we may think it's true, there is no information on the graph saying Europe. B, Latin America and the Caribbean were a great source of refugees in 2010. Again, this is a subjective term, great source. It's not very fact-based. It would be an opinion about whether it's great or not. I could think that 17% is a great source. You could think that 60% is a great source. We're going to rule this one out for now. A, more than half the refugees in the United States were from Asia. Here we go. We can make a decision based on facts. More than half will be 50% or more, more than 50%. So we have East Asia accounting for 17%, and the Near East and South Asia accounting for 34%. That's a total of 51% coming from Asia. A is the correct answer. Look out for these fact versus opinion statements, and it's easier for you to determine which one's best. Number 16 is quite easy. It's just filling in the blank. We look for the information on the chart, on the graph. The smallest number of refugees in the United States came from, we're going to say where. Go ahead and work it out on your own. Pause the video if you need more time. Here we go. I would say that since Latin America and the Caribbean is only 5%, we're going to use that as the first one. The next would be Iran at 3%. Those are the smallest percentages on the pie graph. Okay, rather large historical text. Go ahead, pause the video and read it. Now we're going to have a look at the second text. This one's also quite long. And now we're going to encounter a different type of question. This is going to be a drag and drop. You're going to take the boxes from the bottom in bold and drag them into the boxes in the flowchart that have numbers 1, 3, 5, and 7. So this question is asking you to be able to understand the sequence of events and recall it. On the test, these texts will be above you, so you'll be able to refer to them easily. Have a look at the flowchart, pause it, decide which ones go where. If you can't remember, we'll go back and show the text again in a second. You can review, and then we'll come back. So I hope you had a chance to look at the flowchart. Here's our text. A, you can pause it and read it. B, you can pause this and read it. And then we'll go back to our flowchart. So I've just provided the answers here for you to see if you were right. Number 1 would be Congress passed the Alien and Sedition Acts. This is the beginning of the whole story here in the text. Box number 3, the bottom left, would be Virginia and Kentucky resolutions enacted. Those, of course, came after the writing of the Kentucky and Virginia resolutions. After that, we know that Jefferson declared the winner of the election of 1800, but there was an issue. So box number 5 would be the election of 18 ends in a tie, even though he was previously declared the winner. Then there becomes an issue with nullification. And box number 7, the solution was the 12th Amendment that instructs what the government is to do in case of a tie in the presidential election. Moving on to questions 18 and 19. These are about the 12th Amendment. 18 asks, in the text, the word nullify most likely means which of the following? Now you may know what nullify means. You may be able to guess by the context of the situation. So does it mean A, to bring about, B, to strike down, C, to add to the Constitution, or D, to become higher in rank? The answer is B, to strike down. 19. The 12th Amendment was one important result of the election of 1800. According to the excerpt, what was the purpose of passing this amendment? And so if we've understood the reading, then we should be able to come to our conclusion about this without even looking back at the text. So A states that to make Thomas Jefferson the President of the United States. B, to provide a way to decide who is president in the event of an equal number of votes. C, to help the House of Representatives make Thomas Jefferson the president. Or D, to give the Electoral College more power. Which one do you think is correct? The answer is B, to provide a way to decide who is the president in the event of an equal number of votes. So we know before that the election was a tie. The 12th Amendment was written to provide a solution in case of that. All right, here we have a geography question. We look at a map and we make some determinations and draw conclusions about the information in it. The area is the Fertile Crescent, the bold title in the middle of the map. Then we've got some dashed lines indicating what is the Fertile Crescent, which territory we would call the Fertile Crescent. We've got other markers telling us the names of rivers, 3 rivers involved in the picture of the Nile, Euphrates, and Tigris. And then we have different seas surrounding the region. Question 20 says, the area on the map above is known as the Fertile Crescent. What is the reason for this name? Let's see. Fertile means things grow well, right? A, it is a place of large population. This may be true. You would have a large population where things grow well. I think they're trying to trick us with fertile, meaning humans are fertile, meaning have babies easily. B, it is an area where people travel a great deal. There's not much mentioned here about travel, actually nothing. C, it is between 2 rivers which make the land very productive. The Fertile Crescent is between the Tigris and the Euphrates rivers. Water makes an area very productive for agriculture. It is a place where people migrate often. Just like B, D is not mentioned and is not supported in any way by the map. So it comes down to A or C. C is the most likely, as we have visual evidence of there being 2 rivers, and there is no evidence of population. 21 asks, the Fertile Crescent is between the blank and the blank rivers. Well, this one's pretty easy. I hope you get questions this easy on the exam. If you look there right in the center, the Fertile Crescent is sandwiched between and around the Tigris and Euphrates rivers. More U.S. history, more civics. Please read the 4 paragraphs, pause the video, read them carefully so that we don't have to go back and forth too much. Okay, in the interest of keeping this video short, we're going to go right to the questions. So question 22 asks, a very long question. Marbury versus Madison is one of the most important Supreme Court rulings in the United States history. Since the decision, many cases have gone before the courts. Based on this information and the information in the previous paragraphs, why was this ruling so significant? A, denied Adams' right to make midnight appointments. B, it upheld Adams' right to make midnight appointments. C, confirmed Congress' power to expand judicial authority. Or D, affirmed the power of the court to declare a law unconstitutional. Give it some thought. This one is quite challenging. Okay, if you've had some thought, then it did neither A or B. It would interpret the law. It did not deny or uphold rights of a president, of an exiting president. And it did not, so A and B are not true. C, it did not confirm Congress's power to expand judicial authority, because Congress doesn't have that power. D is correct. It affirmed the power of the court to declare a law unconstitutional. This is known as setting a precedent. 23. The process established the case of Marbury versus Madison is called judicial review. It extends the power of the blank branch of the U.S. government. This question, if we've studied separation of powers, checks and balances, is pretty easy for us to guess because we know that judicial review would be the power of the judicial branch. What organization was often the target of mass demonstrations, a few of them violent, against globalization? Question number 24 expects you to have a little bit of common knowledge about world current events, but you can also use deductive reasoning. Have a look at those answers and see which one you think makes the most sense. Pause the video if you need. We're going to move right into it. So, the World Trade Organization, A. B. CBC, the Canadian Broadcasting Corporation. C. NATO, the North Atlantic Treaty Organization. Or D. NASA, the National Aeronautics and Space Administration. All we have to do is ask ourselves, which one of these organizations would have the most to do with globalization? And clearly, the CBC would not, as it's only related to one country. maybe not. Maybe it broadcasts in other countries, but it's not going to figure heavily in globalization, global trade. NATO is more about defense, although you could argue that it's part of the globalist agenda. NASA is the United States Space Administration. It'd be more related to space travel and extra global exploration. So A, the World Trade Organization, is correct. Looking at this bar chart, we can see that it's about the number of Americans by type of health insurance coverage in the millions. So on the left and the vertical axis, we have from 0 to 60 million Americans. On the right, we have the two shades of gray indicating the years 2010 or 2011. And on the bottom, we have the different types of insurance coverage. 25 asks us, based on the information in this chart, what are the implications concerning health insurance? This you have to infer the meaning, and the differences between the 2 years are very slight. This is quite a challenging question. Go ahead and read through and decide if you think A, B, C, or D are correct. Pause the video. Okay. So for 25, the correct answer is D. If we look at most of the differences, they are either trivial or almost even, or there is slightly less coverage in 2011. But Medicare, there is more coverage in 2011, and Medicaid is even. So this is the most likely statement. 26, we have a short text and a single question. Go ahead and read the text, the question, and the potential answers, and let's discuss which one's correct. As always, pause the video. Okay. The answer to this is D. Uninsured rates would be expected to drop as the economy improved and early provisions expanding coverage on the ACA went into effect. If you've been doing your studies for economics, this will help you a lot. This is a challenging question, and you have to understand the text very well. If there's any language which emerges that you don't understand, it would be a good idea to note that down and study up the meaning. Moving on, we have a larger text, about 5 paragraphs, telling us about the credit report process. Go ahead and read it. Pause the screen. Now 27 asks us, according to the excerpt, what information is found in your credit report? Your education level, income amount, and debt amounts, your payment and credit history, your parents' or other family members' credit history, or your bank account numbers. Go ahead and look at the text again and see what you can find in there. Okay, so which answer did you choose? The correct answer for 27 is B, your payment and credit history. Since the United States has pretty strict privacy laws, your education level, income amount, and debt amounts, income amount would not be something that you would want shared with others, like your employers. Anyone can, it tells you who can do a credit report in the text. C, your parents or other family members' credit history would definitely not be included in your credit history because of privacy, and your bank account numbers would be extremely dangerous for your privacy and identity theft. B, your payment and credit history is correct. Here we have a passage about the Sixth Amendment. If we remember, we just talked about this recently. We saw the amendments overview. Please read it, pause the screen. And now we have 3 questions about the Sixth Amendment. 28 asks us, which of the following is not provided for in the Sixth Amendment? A, a mistrial. B, an innocent person convicted of crimes he did not commit. C, a lengthy trial. Or D, the services of an attorney. You could go back and look at the text, look at what's written in there. You can pause the video and look for all of those. But you could understand the Bill of Rights enough to see that C is not provided because it states that a person is guaranteed a speedy trial, which is the opposite of a lengthy trial. 29 asks, as it is used in the text above, what does the word impartial mean? You can go find impartial in the text, pause the screen, use context to infer the meaning of it, come back. Does it mean A, half, B, fair, C, long, D, large? I think you probably already know what impartial means, but obviously in this situation it means fair. If it's not obvious, then you should not note that word down and include it in your vocabulary studies. 30 asks, some trials do not take place in the district wherein the crime shall have been committed. When the attorney of an accused asks for a change of venue, what does the term change of venue mean? Now, you may not know what venue means. That's not a problem. You can go back and look at the text. It would be right above you when you're taking the test. Try to find change of venue. Does it mean more people to select jurors? A different location for the trial, since it may be different to find an impartial jury in the area the crime was committed? C, a larger location in the event of large attendance? Or D, a different attorney since the accused cannot pay? In this case, it means B, a different location. The venue meaning the place in which the trial occurs. Okay, that's it for this GED exam, social studies exam. I hope that you learned something from this or just got a nice experience practicing, nailing these questions down, going through them. As always, keep your studies up, practice, 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 and good luck with your GED exams.